Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's downloading.
Okay. Now you are transmitting online. I guess. Okay, we are online and we are good to go. Sorry for the delay, guys.
Okay, so perfect, great. Try to take again the slide presentation. So hello everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks to our guest, first special guest, Zoe Krivuli. And today we are going to talk about crowdfunding. So we try to answer to these questions thanks to our guest. What is a crowdfunding? How does it work? How does it connect to the digital community? And we are going to explore some examples and some best practice. So this is our fourth appointment, our Work Café number 4. And we'll start with Zoe. She's a business consultant and she managed with us 1-hour workshop to learn crowdfunding campaign. Then we do a short break, and then we have the second guest, Evita Tsokanta. She's from Greece Kickstarter, and she shared with us how to manage a crowdfunding campaign using this platform. Then we'll have another break, and we close the live streaming session for a more confidential moment to do a recap, to collect your feedback and have a checkout. And first of all, try to enjoy this first meeting. Where we are, so we are at Work Café number 4 on crowdfunding. And during these meetings, these 5 Work Café, we have trying to understand how to build and nurture this community made up of cultural professionals from museum professionals as a follow-up of the MUSA project, and how to put into practice what we are learning from these informal meetings. And then we are going to experiment this also by launching a crowdfunding campaign for 2 museums, for 2 cultural institutions, one in Greece and one in Italy. So this is why the Work Café number 4 is completely dedicated to crowdfunding. I remind you that if you have some proposals, some knowledge that would you like to share with the community, you can do it filling the form, the call for abstract that you can find in the MICA website, but also you probably already received in the newsletter. And sharing your ideas and your knowledge with the community for the next and last Work Café. But we'll see this point in a better way at the end of the meeting. So let's start it. As every meeting, we would like to start with an activity to break the ice, and I would like to ask you this. So if you think about you are in a road trip, which part of the trip would you be at right now? I leave you 5 minutes to think about individually and to write your answer in the chat. When the time is over and I notice you, we can send it in the chat all together, and we are going to see your answers. So this is an activity to share how we are, our feelings, using the trip metaphor, because we are in spring and probably our mind needs to think about a holiday too. So I leave you 5 minutes and then we read the answer random. If someone you already write the answer on the chat, can start sending the messages. Okay, I can see the first answers. Mattia, crossroad that can lead toward to the second part of the journey, or an unknown road. And then we have Rebecca. I would be reaching a motel late in the evening, need to pause and get some rest to continue my adventure tomorrow morning. Thanks, Rebecca. And then Vasiliki, near to Paris with no further expectations. And Paola, having a lunch, recovering energy. Great, thanks. Arilikia say, if I were on a road trip, I would be in a beautiful landscape by a river. Wish it were somewhere in the Balkan area. Great, thank you. Ferdinando says, before the start of the journey, in the process of organized equipment and routes. Discovery phase, I'd still be visiting all the museums that I could find along the way. Thanks, Barbara. Ines, if I was on a road trip, I would be just starting in the first hour since starting. Great, thank you very much. I've just read some of your answer. If somebody from the live streaming session is watching us, can answer, put the comment below the video on the page, Facebook page and YouTube channel, and then we can collect it and share it. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And after this first ice-breaking activity, we can introduce our first speaker Zoe Agrivoli. She is an economist, a business and development consultant. She's a member of a DAISY research group, and she has a vast experience in transnational and training programs. And her interests include also gender and equality issues. She is a benchmarking expert, and she's one of the first business consultants who supported social entrepreneurs in her area. She's just some points of her really long curriculum. And with her, we understand what is a crowdfunding, what are the steps to planning a crowdfunding campaign, and we'll see all together some examples and some best practice. And I think that maybe I can leave the floor to Zoe. If you want to add some about you.
No, it's more than okay, but because I am a business consultant, I hope you won't find very boring my presentation, because I'm not very effective in nice colors, shapes, and stuff like that. I focus more on economic
it was
and financial
really interesting and long.
Okay, I would need to share my screen.
Okay.
Yes. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Well, we have discussed with Panayot about crowdfunding a bit, and I hope that you won't find very boring a small introduction to the issue, so that we could work on specific examples, and we'll get the general idea of what is crowdfunding and how we can work with an effective campaign, since you want to launch 2 campaigns during the program. As the word says, crowdfunding is funding from the crowd, which means that it is a way of raising money to finance projects and businesses. It enables fundraisers to collect money from a large number of people via online platforms. For this definition and others as well, I have chosen sources from the EU, from the EC, the European Commission, or other European projects, although we may find this slightly different definitions, but the basic idea is this: get small amounts of money from a large group of people. That's the idea. How we define small sum, or how we define large group, it is a different story, because when it comes to museums, maybe things are slightly different than when we address general public or for other kind of projects. So, small amount of money, big a crowd of people, and a successful project. Are all projects successful when it comes to crowdfunding? The answer is no. Why? We are going to see it right now. Please feel free to interrupt me with questions and contributions if you want, so that we make the presentation a little more interactive. I have chosen to give you a small history of crowdfunding in the internet. You'll find different infographics, but I like this one because it presents crowdfunding from 1970s to today, which is the modern crowdfunding. There are different theories, but that crowdfunding has started even from ancient years. But what it is sure, it is that one of the modern the more recent crowdfunding approaches says that it was Swift, you know, from Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift, who had the idea to provide loans to low-income families in rural areas. So he launched a first effort in order to get this money in order to support families who were in need of funds. However, the modern idea of crowdfunding, it is much more recent. It starts somewhere like in 2000, a little earlier, a little after that. And we have lots of platforms working with crowdfunding. One of the first platforms was working in creative industries. I'm saying that because we have to take into consideration that it is a preferential relationship, this of crowdfunding and creative industries. We'll see why in the future. But what I like very much to say, because it's also a very good example, is that one of the more successful crowdfunding efforts was the one by Barack Obama. Personally, I think, and it's not only my personal idea, but I definitely agree that actually it was the campaign who sent it first to get to be the candidate for Democrats, and then this campaign led him to the White House. Why? We'll see it a little later, but the basic idea is, although we speak about funding, crowdfunding is not only, sometimes not even at all, I mean, about funds or funding. It is, but not always and not only. It is a very powerful market tool and a way to be in touch, to communicate with people in order to succeed an effort, a cause, a project, or even to sell a product or a service. So crowdfunding is not just about funds, it's also about communication and marketing and other things as well. Now, I think is it clear until now? I propose to show a couple of things on the types of crowdfunding, and then see a small example and then continue, because I think this way probably is better to understand the theory behind. Okay.
Dear Zoe, may you please put on the PowerPoint presentation full screen?
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, much better. Okay. There are several types of crowdfunding, but they are not always, all of them, appropriate for what we are discussing today. It is a peer-to-peer lending, but as the word says, is lending. It is equity crowdfunding, rewards-based crowdfunding, donation-based crowdfunding, profit sharing or revenue sharing, debt securities crowdfunding, and several hybrid models. Now, peer-to-peer lending actually is based on the idea of people lend money to a company or to enterprise with the understanding that they are getting back their money with an interest. This is why it's called lending. It is similar to the one we have seen in the first page, to the bank loan or to a loan from a friend or whatever, but this way a company addresses to a lot of investors. It's not something we are interested right now in our discussion, although it can be a choice in some cases, even for museums, especially from private and not public museums. The equity crowdfunding, as it said, it is crowdfunding where the people are getting some equities, either in the form of venture capital or maybe even in a stock exchange, more rare. But anyway, the idea is that I give money and I get equities. What we are interested in more is a rewards-based crowdfunding, because people give money here with the expectation of receiving. You see, in all cases, people give money, but they expect to receive something back. Okay, it's not just okay. What they receive may vary, but people give money with the expectation of receiving a non-financial reward, which can be just a card where their name is mentioned, or a poster where their name is mentioned, or other more elaborate things. They may also get some goods or services. I'll give you the example, which I love very much. It's an old example, but a small one. That is not, it is indirectly related to the service or product, but it is a reward, still a reward. Donation-based crowdfunding is a more complicated thing, because it aims at a specific charitable project. In all cases, all these types of crowdfunding are related to different legal and other issues, technical and legal issues, not in the platform, but behind the platform. And when we speak about crowdfunding, this is a very nice idea, very easy thing, very nice, everybody's glad, but there are legal issues one has to take into consideration. Okay, so there is no financial or material return as in the previous case, but maybe it's just a charity thing. The other things are profit sharing and revenue sharing. Actually, there is the promise of sharing future revenues or profits. Debt securities crowdfunding is the case where people are getting security in compensation of the money they are giving. And of course, as it is understandable, there are hybrid models as well. As I told you, crowdfunding is not just financial support. Sometimes it's not at all a financial support, and I'll give you an example. You see that there are projects that they are just asking 1,000, let's say, euros or dollars. And one may ask why these people cannot find from their friends 1,000 euros or $1,000 since they want to launch something. The answer is that they prefer to ask this money via a platform because the non-financial support is more important sometimes than the financial percent, not in all cases. Also, I have to say here that not all projects are suitable for crowdfunding. So, what is the strength of crowdfunding? First, that this is a very powerful, as I told you, marketing tool because it gives access to a very large audience. Platforms, different platforms, have their own communities who follow the platforms looking for new projects, new ideas. So when you enter a platform asking even for a small amount of money, immediately you get access to large audience. Another thing is that one can validate their project or their idea to see how it works in the market, if people find it interesting. Here, it is very useful to get one feedback from whatever it is told or from the backers, the supporters. Another benefit of crowdfunding also is that one may gain indirect support to other forms of finance. In the case of a small art company that wants to have a certain program in painting or whatever. If this small art company, in the case of Greece, where I'm very well aware what it happens, goes to the bank asking for money for artistic project, you see that things may get very, very, very hard for the company. But if the same company got some money, not only from the owners, but also from the wider public, then the bank may consider as viable the effort and give more easily. It's a marketing test, it's a pre-sale sometimes, depending on the issue. So it is an indirect support to other forms of finance. And this is a very, very useful tool when one wants to. It is the proof that the product, the service, the cost can be in brackets sold to the public. So banks or maybe other investors may be very much more how can I say, ready to back the effort, since they see that people want what one company or another organization may propose. I would like, however, to emphasize that, as I told you, crowdfunding is not always suitable for everything, okay? And also cannot solve everything. Also, a nice idea who could get crowdfunding, if it is not well presented or well supported, maybe it can be destroyed, not because it is not good per se, but because the people who want to launch the idea through crowdfunding do not know how to launch it in the appropriate way. So, like any other business idea and any other business effort, it needs hard work in order to be successful. Therefore, no. Where are my risks? Okay, it's the other way around. So there are risks. First of all, the first risk is that we don't know. There are suggestions on how to avoid the risks. But the basic, the first risk is not to reach the audience we want to. Audience to give us money, and audience to market our idea, product, service, and whatever.
Zoe,
Yes.
sorry for interrupting you, but if you have changed the slide, we always see the types of crowdfunding. We cannot see the
I don't
slides
know. I
changing.
haven't done anything. I'm just changing. Okay.
Yeah, now it's what about risks?
Okay. Let's
and put it in display mode.
Yes.
Yeah. Presentation, if possible.
Thank you very much. So in businesses, as you know, you think that the product is an wow product and it doesn't work, and you think of this product or service is something very trivial and it works and you don't understand why. But therefore, in general, there are no guarantees about that. But one has to make the effort, and first, and we'll see how, to be very specific about the target. It's like one who goes to Zara, because it's a question I like to ask. If you go to Zara, what is the target group of Zara? Can you tell me? Zara for women. What is the target group? All women, all ages.
Young ladies.
No, it's not.
Young, 25,
No, it's not.
30.
It's not. This is the thing. It is not. All women may buy from Zara, but this is not the target group, because my daughter's age, who is in adolescence, it is Bershka or Pull&Bear or Stradivarius or others. So we are interested in all kinds of audience, but our target group is always specific. So we have to launch a campaign for a specific target group, hoping that we attract people from other target groups as well. And also, I'm saying that because also the tools we are going to use are related to the message and to the target group as well. So target group and people we address in general are not exactly the same thing. Okay. There are risks on intellectual property issues. And in our days, you know that intellectual property issues is something very, very important. So it comes with other legal issues, stuff like that. Problems with the platform. The platform hasn't done what they promised, or our service, product, and whatever, is not appropriate for the specific platform, or there are difficulties in communication. So one has to be very, very careful on what to choose. Production and cost problems. We promise that we offer a certain service or something, project, and the production of this project, whatever it is, needs time, needs resources, and has a cost, and also has to be delivered in the times promised. So these are all things that may destroy a very good idea or a very good project. For example, even for museums, I can tell you that a simple thing. We have a crowdfunding campaign to launch a certain exhibition and there are paintings, let's say, coming from somewhere Southeast Asia or Asia. Because of the pandemic, although we have launched the campaign, the ships are coming late, there are insurance costs different and stuff like that. Or we don't find the people the time we want because people are in quarantine, the time we want them to help us with the exhibition. But the people who have make who have donated to us some money are expecting to be there the first days of March, and we are not able to set up this exhibition the first days of March, but in May. These are problems, and one has to anticipate things and prepare things when it comes to product, artistic product. Also, there are costs. Today, costs are rising because energy, raw materials, other things, prices. Maybe what we have thought that it was a reasonable cost, and we asked for a certain amount of money, it doesn't work anymore. So these are things one has to take into consideration. Is crowdfunding for creative industries? Yes. Yes. Why? Because creative industries have to do with arts, with people who are involved voluntarily, have to do with such kind of things. So if I ask to make, what can I say, something more trivial, let's say certain, okay, food is okay, but something more hard than creative product, maybe I'm not going to get the support I want, because creative industries have everything from an exhibition to the production of a certain product. Well, here it is supposed to, okay. Now, is crowdfunding for the museums? Well, it was not so much, but it is very much now. Why? Because museums, even public museums, are getting financial support from the government, to the local authorities, but this is difficult in our times. It's getting more difficult. In Greece, at least, things were much easier some years ago. Now they're very, very difficult. So crowdfunding goes for the museums as well. It goes for the museums for a project, or in general. This is a difficult question for me. Not if it goes for a museum, it goes. But it is appropriate for a certain project, or to cover operational expenses as well. This is a question I would like you to answer sometime. Before we go to the strategy, the basics of a strategy, let me show you an example. Let me find the link. This is an old project, but I liked it. I like it because because it's short and it's very clear cut to understand. So let me try to. It's a Kickstarter, one of the most well-known platforms appropriate for arts and stuff is Kickstarter, as we know. Let me try to. Share screen now. Can you see Cooking with Lula?
Okay. Yes, we can see.
Yes.
Okay. It is an old project. I'll show you the basic idea. It was this Greek, okay. I don't know if you can hear it. It's just 3 minutes.
Just in case you haven't noticed, the Acropolis is behind me, which makes me pretty much Greek. And I would like to make a family cookbook with Greek recipes. My family is renowned for its good food. So I wished to create a book which would collect all these recipes so that I can share them with the next generations of my family and also to share them with you. I've decided to make a cookbook that's going to have recipes on the one side, and on the other, I'm going to have written a story using each recipe as a point of inspiration. And hopefully each page will take you on a small journey and inspire you to cook. A recipe is what explains how you get from one point of many ingredients to the final result of a cooked food. I believe every project has a recipe, and so does mine. It's a personal recipe, and that is what I'm going to tell you today. We are now in my testing kitchen, and I'll walk you through the recipe for pickled cookbook the Kickstarter way. The ingredients go as such: 936 Sunday lunches with family. 1 unstable economic situation. 2 cooking school years. 9 years of writing to oneself. 75 to 80 Greek recipes. 1 graphic designer. 1 photographer. 1 printer. 2 slices of work. 3/4 of a cup of creativity. 2 tablespoons of love. A pinch of anxiety. A few drops of doubt. A sprig of tree of life. The recipe starts like this. Toss and turn in bed in the early hours of the morning to convert anxiety into creativity. Write and rewrite your ideas to refine the intention. Communicate. Tell people what you're doing. Be challenged. Feel inadequate. Progress. Make the first draft of a video and then realize that it isn't what you want. Learn how to change course fast. Send a letter to people you know, telling them where you would like to be in 1 month from today. Ask them to support you. Label the jar with a date and name and allow the pickles for a month in cyberspace. There's this critical point when you cook a recipe where you should just take a moment and give your food a blessing. Every time I've done that, it's always come out the way I'd like it. So what I'm asking you to do is to take a moment and give me a blessing for this recipe. And you can do it in any way you wish. You can actually do it by just giving me a blessing. Or you can spread the word through social media. You can send an email or even just support my Kickstarter campaign. Thank you very much, whatever you choose to do.
Can you hear me? Okay, I have chosen this example and I'll analyze it a little because you had a discussion on cooking in your previous work cafes as well, not just because I like it and it is short, but because it includes everything I want to say, give you some example, and also because I tell you, you have already discussed, you had an example in your previous cafe. Well, you see here that we have a young lady who pledged of British pound 15,000 British pounds. She got double. The thing works like this. You pledge a certain amount, and until you receive all the amount you need, money are not taken from your account, from your credit or card and stuff. And I have a question here. I was always wondering why there are some projects for €5 or €1 may not be finished and people lose for such a trivial amount of money a whole project. I'll give you an example later, or maybe your other speaker, Evita Jolanda, may explain us why this happened. Now, the rewards we were talking about. A person who wants to give just £2, British pounds, which is €5, let's say. Okay, maybe nowadays it's not anymore €5 is less. It's the reward is a cook card, a postcard with e-cooking. But if one gives £10 or more, they get a tea towel. I'll show you. A tea towel. It's not the book, but it's somewhat related to it, a tea towel. Okay. When one gives £15 or more, they get an e-book. Here, we come back to what I was telling you about production costs and stuff. This probably, I don't know, but I assume that this £15 cover the cost of the ebook, because it is not material, the ebook. Okay. 25 or more. It says here an apron. There are, it comes to different shapes and sizes. £30 or more, the printed cookbook, the cost of the printed cookbook, as you understand, it's much higher than the electronic one. Okay, so plus other things. When it goes for £35 or more, they print it, the 30,000 plus, and goes like that. Okay, and if you give £8,000 of more, you get everything. Okay, here you see that there were 8 people who gave more than £200, and one that gave more than 500. Because I'm Greek, I assume that it must be an uncle, a parent, or something like that, but still, okay. This is the idea. So now you have the idea, you have seen the campaign, it was a video productive. Here is a presentation in the internet of the book. So what this lady is asking us to fund her project, actually to pre-buy her book. And it says here, estimated delivery ships to April later than the dates of the campaign. So we come back to what I was telling you, one has to be very careful to that, because the evidence shows that people who support one project are coming again to support again other projects as well. If their expectations are not fulfilled, probably it is very bad for our another project of us. And when it comes to museum, it's not just a person who did something and disappeared, but when it comes to museums, one has to be very careful what promised to be done, because museums are here for today, for tomorrow. It's not just a young lady who asks for something. So, any questions about that? Okay. Do you see now again my PowerPoint?
Yes, not in a full screen,
okay.
but you can see it.
Thank you. Now we come to the strategy. Hold on.
We see slide 9.
What is this? First, product and service or cause. Be focused. I don't want to do everything. I don't want to solve all the problems I have in my company, in my museum as a person. I want one thing, and this thing has to be clear. I once was watching in Kickstarter a very nice presentation of something. I haven't understood what it was about. If I remember well, it was something about quinine and the drink gin, but I was not quite sure what I was going to buy at the end. But so one has to buy, has to refer to specific things. One book of this size, one exhibition, one product, one service, one cause specifically. So we stay focused. And another thing is to get money from people, one has to be slightly different from the others. Why should I buy? Because everybody's doing the same thing. Why should I support this new thing? It has to be something interesting, something new, something different. Okay. The target group is the question we have discussed previously. If I want to have a sort of concert with young people, and I think I can address to my normal bikers, supporters, probably I will be wrong, because my target group is the younger people, and the younger people will ask their parents to support, but this is not my normal standard audience. So what I have to if you want to set up this concert, what I should do? Not use the Facebook. This is for my age, but use the TikTok. The youngsters do not have the money to pay, but they can be very effective to ask their parents to pay for them. So it is very important we know our audience, the right platform. Not all platforms are about everything. Some are more technical, some more artistic, some they are different. Okay, some are for charities, and also charities address to different targets. So one has to be very careful to choose the right platform on what they want to do. Funding goals. Here
Zoe,
we have.
can you change the slide, please? Thank you. Go to the next one. We see the crowdfunding in creative industries.
Okay,
Yet.
why again?
No. Yeah, correct. Strategy.
You can see the lines changing, the movement?
Yeah, it is not in presentation mode, I'm afraid. We see the slides on the left side.
Why? I did it, I don't do it. Now?
No, maybe you have to.
I'll go the other way.
Okay.
Now it's better?
Not yet.
No?
No.
I've done it both ways, with F5 for whatever it is, and with from I don't know, from here. I don't know.
Sorry, when that happens, you have to leave PowerPoint and then enter again full mode in your computer and then share the screen.
Okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The problem is that when I try to do that, in full screen, I can not find my the Zoom buttons anymore. This is, let's see here.
If you want, I can share your PowerPoint and maybe you can tell me when I have to move.
Now you see it?
In the same way, not in the full screen.
You do it, please. It's,
okay, yes.
is number 10.
Okay, perfect. Just one moment.
I forgot to say, but we have to go a little back to page. I'll tell you which page. Hold on.
This is this slide number 10.
Yes, but I would like it, go first to slide number 7, if it is possible.
Okay, this one.
Yes, because for some reason it was to be somewhere else. But I left
Okay,
it.
no worries, no worries. Tell me when I have to move and I go on.
What I wanted to say now is when one chooses the platform, has to take into consideration several legislative and non-legislative barriers. In Greece, for example, one of the problems we had is that especially the years 2010 to 2016, 17, I'm not quite sure about the year, because of the economic crisis, we could not have easy access to we could not easily open bills to bank bills, even in Greek banks, for a couple of years at least. And also it was our exchange, it was under restriction to buy things from abroad or to bring things inside. So there are lots of times there are several things. Now we are not in such kind of situation, but however, what I'm trying to say is that in Greece, until very recently, where the legal framework have changed, we had seriously legislative barriers and financial barriers because of the situation, the economic and the bank accounts and everything, but also because there was not there any clear legislative environment appropriate for platforms, and that was a major problem. Some years ago, things have changed. However, even with this, in this situation, because of the economic crisis, we had restrictions on bank accounts. What I'm trying to say is that in several countries, or for example, Kickstarter, which is one of the platforms I like very much, one of the problems is that for up to a certain period, they were not accepting, how can I say, bikers. They were accepting bikers from everywhere, but initiators were limited to Anglo-Saxon countries, US, Great Britain and other Western European countries, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, but not all countries of the world. And Greece was not one of these countries either for some time. Now Kickstarter is in Greece. We are going to have the presentation and whatever. Now, to my opinion, the more important barriers, however, are the non-legislative ones. One of them, the things that make platforms attractive is that one can address wider audiences. The audiences, I told you, has to be targeted. However, there are problems because when one goes international and addresses worldwide, there are problems, cultural problems, attitudes. One has to be very, very, very careful in order not to insult people when it comes to gender, religious issues and stuff like that. Okay, and sometimes we don't understand things when we are doing it, because in our country it is different. Okay, another obstacle is the language. We use mostly English language, but sometimes our target audience may have problem to access us through English language. Anyway, there are when we use our platforms, we have to take into consideration things like that as well. Would you please go now to number 10?
Is this the right one, I think?
No, it's the one with the risks, I think.
Okay. What about risk?
No, it's the basics, strategy, the basics.
Okay.
Okay, I've lost. Okay, stop. Okay. Anyway, the one is what I told you. Be focused to find the idea. Explain why is different. The target group, the right problem, the funding goals, as I told you and I'll show you in the example of the cooking book, the timeline. When do we need this money? In a month, in a week, in a year? If it is in a year, it's too much. In a week, maybe the time period is very short. So one has to be very careful when it comes to things like that. The perks, what do I give? The perk levels, as you have seen in our example, they may vary from simple acknowledgements or just a thank you postcard, especially in some types of products like games or others. People want to be the first to have the product. So early adopters. So we may give them the opportunity to be the first, or to give them a beta and the final version, and everybody will be proud to be the first to have this product. And we promise to launch in the market after 15 days or a month or something. Product pre-order in the same logic. Maybe there are other things as well, creative collaborations. For example, if one gives, let's say, 500 pounds, you promise to give the name of a character or to dedicate to you something, things like that. Or it depends on the issue, unique experience as well. I'm trying to say that one has to take into consideration things like that, and these are merely the basic ones. There are a lot more things. Another thing is the investors and backers, to communicate with them. As you have seen have you heard and seen in the examples, this young lady have sent letters to friends, cousins, parents, everywhere. This was their backers. But when it comes to investors, things are slightly different. When we are speaking about museums, we have to address, we don't expect to see our message and enter the platform just like that. We have to communicate and have a clear message as well. Also, the one I was telling you, the logistics, production and other practical issues, when it arrives to our backers, and also the finances. Okay, we promise to give things. Have we the money to produce these things and then give them and have our, I mean, the issue is the cash flow, not the production cost, also the cash flow as well. In order to have the money to support what we promised. Okay, we are going to get the money, but when? The cash flow things are serious things as well. And sometimes one may have revenues and profits, but if the cash flows are not very good, then maybe the entrepreneurial idea may fail. Also, it's not just like that. One has to make some research, to attend a lecture, to attend our MICA Café also, to have some idea as well. Can we move to, I think another two presentations as well. One. Can we move to the next one, please? Okay. What kind of campaign is crucial? Who is asking the money? It's us. Who are we? We have to explain. You have seen in the example, the lady. The most important thing, according to me, is the narrative behind the idea of the product. People nowadays want to have experiences, especially in the creative industries, especially when it comes to museums and arts. So we need to provide the story behind and find a very good narrative. And explain why can we get the money? Why do we need their support? And who are we addressed to? Okay. And also the rewards have to be worthwhile, depending on the audience. I'm saying again. Some are early adopters, want to be the first. Some other people want to be just mentioned somewhere or nothing. Keep your communication channels open. Address to the backers and investors and keep communication channels open. And also produce attractive marketing materials suitable for social media as well. Okay, and this is crucial. I think this is the last, I think, no? Okay, the Kickstarter. Since I've seen that Evita Chokanda is here, I have shown you a simple project in Kickstarter, but I have chosen Kickstarter because their mission is to help bring creative projects to life, and I think it is a good platform for museums as well. I have to tell you here, however, that there are other platforms as well, more specialized in museums, but however, Kickstarter addresses to wider audiences. One may use several platforms at the same time as well. Okay, the one that addresses to people who, for example, for 10,000 euros and more, and another platform for wider users, for wider public. I would like only to show you something in Kickstarter and then leave you here and give you back the floor. Let's just for one more minute.
Yes, if you I interrupt the sharing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's see.
In the meanwhile, I say hello to Evita.
Yes.
And then before I pass to Evita, we'll do a short break, 5-minute break.
Yes, and I want to ask now the question to Evita, because I was always wondering about that. She has the idea. Can you see my screen?
I think yes. Now we can see.
Just some boring stuff, but I think it's useful. It's very nice that we have Kickstarter Greece. Here you see some some statistics which are very interesting. How much money was pledged to Kickstarter projects? How many successfully funded projects we are? Here, if you click, you see all categories and the success rate per category, which means that not all projects managed to reach the amount they wanted, or for other reasons they were not successful. What I wanted, I was always curious. You see here in the statistics, in music, not in music, in games or in arts or in design, almost 200 projects were successfully funded. Several amounts of money. You see here that more than 1,000 of them were asking less than $1,000. This is what I was telling you earlier. It is about marketing. It's a marketing tool. It's not just about funding. Okay. Here you see the different numbers, and you see that there are projects that raised a very, very high amount of money. What I was wondering is this: there are several projects that haven't succeeded to raise the money they wanted because they managed to get funds only for 81 to 99% of the amount they have asked. And the question is, why they could not ask someone to give the 500 or something of money in order to get the total amount? I don't know if Evita has an answer about that, so that we avoid to make the mistake when we launch our project for our museums. That was all from me. Is my question understood? You see here that there are some projects unsuccessfully funded. That means that they haven't managed to get the funds they asked. Why? Okay, if the project was not interesting, okay, but if one reaches the 99%, why they do not fund personally some people for this 1 or a little more percent? That is my question, in order to develop the right strategy. That's all for me. It's my last slide saying thank you, and my email as well. Any questions?
Can I ask something? I don't know if we have the time, or if Evita wants to reply to this question. I don't know. Sylvia, how would you like to do it?
Well, we have Evita from 4:30 until 5 o'clock, and I don't know if we want to reply to the question during the time of Evita, or we want, I let Evita answer it, because I don't know if she has any, she has restrict time, or if she can reply now and do the break time and then go on. I'll let Evita decide.
It's absolutely fine with me either way. I just have to apologize for being late in this session. I've had a very bad couple of days with my computer. It's in a very precarious situation. Hopefully it will hold up for this. But yes, please, let's, I mean, I'm fine answering any questions. I do have some information to give you about several aspects, but if I can be any help right now, that's fine with me.
Okay, so yeah, maybe if you want to answer to the question now, and then we can do the break and then start with Evita's sessions. You have some question, Panagiota. I read
Yes,
some comments
sorry.
on the chat. Yeah.
It's just a question. I don't know if Evita can reply, but since Zoe had this presentation, I will ask Zoe first. Okay, if a person or an institution or a museum, somebody has a project that is already funded, is this attracting to people to refund the same person, the same individual or museum, or it is repelling because they have already get the money, so it's better to fund another new project? Is it something that it is alluring for the audience when a project is already funded, or it is a no, let's go to, it's like the best seller in other platforms? It is a good sign or not? If something, so Zoe, if you know, or...
I'll give this. It always it has to be different. But let's take an example. If there is a very nice exhibition, but just in Athens, and I want to bring it here in Laris, and there are no funds for Laris, and there is a high demand for that, and people cannot travel or whatever, it may be attractive as well. It depends on the project, I think. Although always we have to be slightly different, to offer a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it depends on the project.
Okay, fine. Yes, it's understood. Yeah, I thought that it would be that the answer, but I thought if there were any other elements that may play a role in this marketing strategy. Okay, thank you.
I have a bit of a longer answer, so maybe, and it's part of what I'll be saying afterwards. So maybe I mean, I completely agree. It very much depends on what the project is and where it's based, and the entire marketing strategy behind it and the communication aspect. But it very well depends on even on the size of the organization. If it's a large organization, if it's a small organization, it affects the way people view a campaign. For example, if it's a large museum, for example, sometimes people are not particularly fond of adding to that campaign if it's already funded, because already we're talking about an organization that has lots of backing in most cases, or that's what the perception of the audience would be. If it's for a smaller cultural organization that maybe is known to struggle financially, maybe it's actually a push towards helping even more, seeing that they've managed to secure already the budget of their project, and in the process, having the ability to help even further. So it's a case-to-case situation, I would say.
Okay, thank you both.
Thank you. Are there other questions before the break?
5,999 questions, but I would stop for the break.
Okay. Well, so thank you, really thank you, Zoe.
To interrupt. So now I have a camera. Vasiliki here. Just want to say that I won't be able to participate in the second part, but I really want to thank Zoe for the presentation, and I will catch up with the rest of the team with what will be presented, and we will be in touch as well at the last cafe, work cafe, and for any other information. But if you want anything from me furthermore, please feel free to contact more. Okay? Have a nice evening, and thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vasiliki, to be here. Great.
Sylvia, just before the break, I also would like to thank Zoe for the presentation. And I wonder if those who start the campaign do really know the rules of the funding. If they knew if they would cover that amount, they would receive all they are asking for, or if they don't know the rules, so they miss that opportunity, or if they really don't want to be financed, funded, but they just want to do a good marketing campaign.
Not hear you, Zoe. We cannot hear you.
Sorry, thank you very much. I think that they all know because they sign a contract. And if they don't know, this means that they haven't done their research, they haven't attended our café. So from the beginning, they are not going to be successful. That's the...
Okay. So if you don't do the homework, you will not get good
that's
results.
Okay.
Thank you, Zoe.
Okay, so if there is not other questions for the moment, we can do a 3-minute break in order to leave the floor to Evita and try to stay in time, and see you here in a bit, in 3 minutes. Okay. Thank you again, Zui. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and thank you for sharing your knowledge.
Sylvia, can you hear me? This is Evita. Okay. Hello, can you see me?
Hi, Vita.
Hi, I'm so
I think
sorry.
that you have your microphone. Okay. Sorry, here I am.
I just wanted to check that you can hear me and see me.
Yes.
I am too worried about my laptop, which we made some kind of pattern for it to work, and now it seems like it's not cooperating. So I came onto my phone just to make certain. But yeah, I'm so sorry about this.
No worries, no worries. It happens. It's really fine like
It's
this. And
yeah, it's been a very, very bad experience.
and I can imagine. We are happy to have you here. So no worries. So I try to introduce you, and then I can leave the floor for your intervention. Evita, she's from Kickstarter platform, the one that Zoe introduced us before. She works as a writer, educator, and art professional based in Athens. And she received her BA in art history and English in university in USA, and her MA in cultural and creative industries from King's College London. And she has been working for Kickstarter since 2020 for the launch in Greece, and she's currently outreaching for a project throughout Europe for the session educator and art of Kickstarter. So with her, we'll try to know Kickstarter platform and try to understand how to manage with some tips the platform, and she show us some example, but I'll leave you the floor to add more in person. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Again, I am very, very sorry about actually essentially being late for the first session, which I was very interested in actually observing. But at the same time, I'm sorry that I am now actually signing in through my phone, because I've had the nightmare that we all have, that our computer crashes the day before our presentation. And today is a bank holiday in Greece, so I couldn't actually get a hold of technical support. So again, sorry about all this. Anyway, my name is Evita. I am an art professional. I studied art history in English. I've been working in Greece. Well, I've been working in the contemporary art world since 2004, in Greece since 2006. So both in London, where I finished my master's, and in Greece. I'm here today representing Kickstarter. So this is a full disclosure. I work for Kickstarter and I have been working for them for the past 2 years. It's as you probably know, it's one of the better known crowdfunding platforms. It's very well known internationally. I started working for them 2 years ago when they approached me in preparation of their launch. They were doing a big launch in 3 European countries: Greece, Poland, and Slovenia. And they were looking for professionals in these countries to actually build awareness about the brand and kind of spread word of mouth that it will be functioning in the country, and kind of scout for interesting art campaigns that might be involved during the launch of Kickstarter. Initially, it was planned for the spring of 2020, which is when everything kind of collapsed. So it was postponed and delayed a couple of times. It eventually happened in October 2020. We launched with 2 art campaigns. Ever since my role has kind of expanded throughout Europe, so I have kind of facilitated Kickstarter campaigns for European culture organizations, and I'll mention a couple further down as examples. And in the past year, my role has also expanded into publications. very often photography books or even artist books that are kind of in some way engaged with my art background, but also film, which again has some kind of intersection with the visual arts. I should say that my purpose and my intention was to get you all to introduce yourselves. But first of all, you're a rather large group, and you have some familiarity with each other. And unfortunately, at this point, I can't really see any of you because I'm going through my phone. So maybe that's kind of defeats the purpose of breaking the ice with getting people to introduce themselves. Hopefully I'll be able to, address issues that might be of your interest. If not, I hope that we can find a way to answer your questions and see if there's a crossover from contemporary arts into other issues. My plan is to give you a little bit of background of what Kickstarter is, how it started, how it functions, and give you some kind of idea of what a crowdfunding campaign consists of, and kind of the main steps you have to go through to be able to run a Kickstarter campaign. And in the end, I kept a few examples to mention. Obviously, this would have been a lot more stimulating with my visual aids. Again, I apologize. But anyway, just to begin with, so I don't take up too much of your time, especially for the Greeks. I know today is a day off, so I appreciate you being here. Just to say, Kickstarter was established in 2009 with a center in New York City, in Brooklyn, actually, in the US. It was started by three young creatives, an artist, a designer, and a writer, actually. And this was 2009, so it was kind of the beginning of the international financial crisis. And I would say that these three people essentially came up with the idea that we need to figure out how to bring our what we want to see to life. So their initial idea was to actually be able to fund a concert that they actually wanted to see. So that's essentially where it started. It was a small startup. Even today, I know that it's kind of a recognizable international brand, but even today, the company itself is, I would say, still mid-sized. It's not a huge corporation. It's less than 100 employees. So there's a lot of interaction between all of us, even though we are now all working remotely. I should say one of the interesting things one of the things that attracted me to Kickstarter to begin with, to be able to work with them, collaborate with them, is the idea that the entire company is divided in departments, about 15 departments. Each department represents a specific aspect of creative and cultural life, a specific field. So there are fields in specific of arts, obviously, publishing, film, music, cinema, film, video, design, technology, arts, crafts, anything you can imagine and create it in the creative sphere. There's a department in it, even for food, actually. So there are creative projects produced through Kickstarter that involve food preparation of some sort. What I think is compelling about this kind of scheme or structure of the company is that each department is actually populated by employees that came from their respective industries. So, for example, the head of film is a documentary filmmaker. The head of arts is a former curator. She used to actually run her own gallery. So I think what's interesting about this is the fact that these people know these fields. They're not just some kind of corporate executive. They know the vocabulary, they know the challenges, the issues that creators face in their respective fields. And what's maybe even more productive is the fact that they exist in these networks. So they have a very well developed and connected support system. Each department sends a weekly mailing suggesting campaigns that are just launching that might be of interest only to people that back their respective industry. For example, let's say music, one weekly sends a newsletter suggesting 5 new campaigns that is only directed towards people that pledge their money towards music projects like concerts or albums or various ways of actually dealing with music. So I think that in itself, the people that are working for Kickstarter know their object, and they're not some kind of, I mean, when I initially talked to them, I felt like I was going to be speaking to some kind of corporate, person that I didn't even know how to approach, really. I should say that in 2015, it was established in 2009. In 2015, it kind of changed its legal status. A Kickstarter, it became a public benefit company. This is essentially a public benefit company. It's a legal term. It's a US legal term. And what it means is that legally, Kickstarter is obliged to put their mission statement above the benefit of their shareholders, which means that their mission statement, bringing creative project to life, is a top priority, which is why very often you will see, if you browse Kickstarter, numerous campaigns on projects that involve social issues or some kind of public distribution of a cultural product or art in general, a creative project. So that is kind of the top priority. You can some practical information about Kickstarter. You can essentially support, back, or pledge to any Kickstarter campaign, no matter where you are in the world. The only requirement you have essentially is to have a credit card, really, and just sign in your details. There is a differentiation if you're a creator and you want to launch a campaign. There's a specific list of countries on the website where you're allowed to launch a campaign, and this has to do with bank processing details. There's also we work with a company that deals with all the bank processing to be able to process transactions from banks throughout the world. I should say that both Italy and Greece are obviously countries that you can launch a campaign from. At the same time, I have seen creators work around this kind of limitation. For example, people have decided to launch campaigns if they live in a country where Kickstarter is not available to creators. They use the bank account and Kickstarter access of a colleague or a partner organization or a family member or a friend that lives and is based in a country where Kickstarter is active. Essentially, what you need to launch a campaign is a bank account from one of the countries that Kickstarter is functioning in. I would like to mention that since 2009, and I know Ms. Zoya who's actually mentioned this earlier, but I mean, it's a pretty impressive number not to include in any presentation. Since 2009, there have been over $6.5 billion pledged on Kickstarter campaigns, and there's over 200,000 campaigns that have been successful. To begin with, I generally try to avoid too many statistics because, as we all know, statistics can be manipulated easily and bring the outcome that one desires to show. I have to begin saying that a Kickstarter campaign, and for that matter, any crowdfunding campaign, is a lot of work. I mean, it requires your full attention. Usually I suggest people start preparing for a campaign 2 to 3 months before launching a campaign. A campaign usually lasts 14 to 35 days. It could be less or it could be longer, depending on the goal, the financial goal, and the human resources capacity of whoever is actually launching a campaign. If it's one individual, I suggest the longer end of that duration. And it's, apart from a lot of work, it is also very, very stressful. And having said that, I would say for me, from all the campaigns that I have launched through Kickstarter, aiding creatives, I should say that the amount of money that is more usually successful is small amounts, anything between 10 to 12,000 euros. I'm seeing there's a question. Sylvia, if you could help me out, please do throw your questions. But
yeah, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rebecca asked you, regarding the launching of a campaign, who can launch one? Only organization or freelancer as well? Is having a legal status obligatory?
No, it's not. It could be anyone. It's an excellent question. As I said, the only requirement to launching a campaign is actually having a bank account. Obviously, organizations have bank accounts, individuals, freelancers also have bank accounts. So anyone with a bank account can launch a campaign. There's no necessity for a legal status, which is one of the reasons that this platform works internationally, because legal status from country to country is very different. So again, the only requirement is having a bank account. Now, a different question is, how is everyone taxed when you do a crowdfunding campaign? Obviously, that abides by the tax laws of each country that you're located in, and it's very different for an organization, especially a nonprofit organization, from an individual. So these are discussions that we can have further on. But yeah, to launch a campaign, anyone can do it. As I said, no worries. Thank you for the question, actually. What I think is a very safe amount in actually launching a campaign, especially in Greece, knowing the market very well, is around 10 to 12,000 euros. Having said that, many people, and I will bring up examples that have reached much bigger amounts than that. These campaigns obviously need months in preparation to begin with. It's a very different approach. But smaller cultural organizations that I have worked with here in Greece, or even in Germany or the UK, maybe don't necessarily need that much amount of time, but at the same time, they could have a much larger target. Also, another kind of interesting bit of information is that just in April, less than a month ago, there was a campaign on Kickstarter that kind of broke the record of the highest, most successful campaign in Kickstarter history. And this was usually the campaigns that bring the most large amounts are coming from gaming and technology. But this was actually an independent author, and he launched a campaign for a series of books he had written, fantasy fiction, really. His goal was $1 million, and he surpassed that very early on, within the second day. And the completed amount that he received was $42 million, actually, which even to me is mind-blowing. He decided to reinvest most of this back to campaigns on Kickstarter for other publications, because obviously this was an enormous amount of money. But just to show you that there are possibilities, not necessarily always realistic, but there are possibilities, and people have manipulated the platform accordingly. Before going any further, I need to say, and this is specific for Kickstarter in particular, the percentage that Kickstarter gets from a campaign is 5%. But that 5% is only paid if the campaign is successful. So if you set a goal for $5,000 and you reach that goal, then Kickstarter gets the 5%, and the bank processing company, Stripe, gets an additional 3%. However, if the campaign is not successful, it doesn't reach its funding goal, then obviously you don't get paid, but also Kickstarter doesn't get paid. So essentially, it's the same risk you're taking, kind of using this platform to crowdfund, is the same risk that this platform is taking by allowing you to have your campaign on its website. And the idea of this is based on the kind of the important issue that differentiates Kickstarter from other platforms. It's this kind of policy of all or nothing, which means that if you set a goal for 5,000, as I mentioned earlier, you only manage to get them the funds if you reach or go over 5,000 euro. If you're at 5,900, then you will not. Having said that, in my kind of experience until now, very rarely does one get to 4,900 and not to 5,000. There is this percentage. It shows kind of an indication. Usually, the most backers come in the first week of the campaign, and it's the last week of the campaign. No matter how long the campaign is, if it's a month, if it's 45 days or 2 months, But usually that's when the big waves of pledges come in. And if in the first week you manage to secure 25 backers, maybe, you have a very large percentage of success. Like the percentage is like 75% or something. So, I mean, if you put in the work that you get 25 pledges, even if the pledges aren't huge amounts, that is a good indicator that the campaign will be successful by the end of it. And one of the other reasons I want to express why all or nothing, and again, this is exclusive to Kickstarter, and there are available crowdfunding platforms elsewhere that this doesn't apply. One of the reasons that I think it works is that, first of all, it creates a sense of urgency. When a backer actually sees a campaign at 80% of its target, very often I've seen early backers, re-enter the campaign and even increase their pledge in order to help that creator get to their goal. And that's interesting because it seems it's like this belief system. The more people that pledge, the more trust is built in the project itself. And the idea of the all or nothing situation is also the fact that it's kind of trying to protect both the backer and the creator. And what I mean is, because as I said, Kickstarter is only for creative projects. If you have budgeted your project, whatever it is, X amount of money, and you're actually given less than that, half than that, then you're forced to actually produce this project with half the money it actually needs. So it kind of saves you from actually having to keep fundraising elsewhere, or actually having to do the project with half the money that as a cultural professional, that this amount of money is not enough for what I'm trying to do. And the last point I have to make about this is that the backer, when they pledge an amount of money, this amount from his bank account is only withheld and it's not withdrawn, because you don't know if the campaign will reach its goal or not. This idea that as a backer, I decide to pledge maybe €50 the first day just to help out a friend or someone that I think has come up with an interesting idea. This makes it more accessible to me as a backer to give that €50, knowing that I'm not even spending it right now. There's a potential within a month that campaign is not funded, and I haven't spent any of my €50. The amount is actually withdrawn for one's bank account only if the campaign is successful. So it's creating a kind of safer space both for the creator and the backer. It's a business model. I understand it, but I just always feel the need to explain it further because it's very unique in Kickstarter. Okay. One of the main questions, and I'm sure this is going to come up, one of the main questions I get very, very often when I do these types of presentations is, how do I actually set a goal? What is the financial goal of my campaign? And that's kind of one of the reasons that I ask people to start very early on planning a campaign before launching. You have to be realistic, and you have to be realistic on two levels. The first level is how much money you actually need to make your project be activated, actually realized. But at the same time, you have to be realistic about how much money you can gather on a Kickstarter campaign. So what I very often suggest, which sounds very very organized, and not many of us in the art world are extremely organized, but it helps, is you make a spreadsheet before even planning a campaign. The spreadsheet, on one hand, exhibiting all your expenses, your proper budget for your project, but on the other hand, another spreadsheet that kind of makes a little bit of a list of how many people you expect to back, and maybe around what amount even. So you make kind of an anticipation of what you could be expecting. That's not necessarily going to be the end result, but it prepares you about being realistic about what you can get through a crowdfunding platform. As I said, it's a lot of work, so you need to prepare in advance as much as possible. Obviously, you need to calculate any possible committed expenses. Some people, when you're starting to spread word of mouth about your campaign, mentioning to people we are launching a Kickstarter campaign for this cultural institution, maybe even from just this kind of lobbying, you get committed pledges. People decide, okay, I'll give you 500 euro just for letting me know early on beforehand. So you need to account for that amount and come up with a final number that's realistic on both ends. Another question I want to ask before I get into the more technical details, what do we think are possible gains other than fundraising through a crowdfunding platform? There are a number of other things that you can actually learn in this process that is not just getting the amount. And I'm not saying that, in any kind of success or failure story, at the end of it, if you haven't succeeded, you say there's always a lesson to be learned. But no, there is a bit more actual tangible gains in actually doing a crowdfunding platform campaign. First of all, the obvious is that you expose your project, your work, to the industry. There is a number of people, as I said earlier, Kickstarter is broken down into departments, and there are a number of people that very often actually check the platform to see new ideas, new projects, new creators. So you do create a level of visibility for what you're trying to accomplish. Second of all, which I think is very useful, is that you end up being able to quantify your impact, which means that if you do run a campaign and you reach your final goal, at the end of this campaign, you do receive a full list of all the pledgers and the amount of pledges that they offered to your campaign, and obviously their contact details, which means that this is a mailing list in your disposal. So if you've had a campaign with maybe 300 individuals backing your project, then you could go to the next funding body when you're actually continuing to fundraise, go to a private institution, or go to complete a European funding application, for example, and show that impact in numbers. Explain that for this project, this X amount of people are interested in supporting me. So especially if you're contacting individuals for corporate funding in businesses who are very into numbers of visibility, this is giving you a very concrete number of visibility. Also, I have to say, one of the big things is that and I wouldn't have believed this until I actually saw it happening. You end up building a community around you through this. The people that are willing to separate themselves from their money, no matter how much amount, whether it's €1 or it's €1,000, these are the people that are backing you in a way that is very targeted. These people want to engage with what you're doing. They want to be part of this production in some way. They want to be updated on the development, on news, on successes maybe. You are growing a community that, and this is something that's important, especially for museum or cultural institution professionals. We've had campaigns that used this mailing list, used the community they built through their crowdfunding platform, and launched through that a membership scheme, for example. So you can actually have one of your awards be one of the first 50 members of our brand new membership scheme through your award. So you're backing this project and you're also becoming part of our family. So there are different kind of tools you can use to reinforce your community, to even venture out into a different audience. Not all museums have necessarily have access to younger audiences in some cases, younger audiences that are more tech savvy than kind of the average museum goer, for example. And very often I have seen another gain. I've seen people, especially kind of larger institutions, repeat campaigns. So they campaign once for one project, and maybe 2 or 3 years later, they come back and they do a different campaign, but they're already building from the community they had built in the first campaign. So they end up adding to their community by repeat campaigns. Okay, I don't know if any of you have run a campaign or if anyone has actually backed a campaign.
Yes, both Rand
yes.
and Beckett.
Excellent.
Even the one you have quoted before, the one of millions.
Oh, nice.
I was a backer, yeah. I am a
Nice,
backer.
well done. I hope you get your books as soon as possible.
Me too.
Yeah. Very well done. Thank you. So you're very familiar with kind of the structure of what a campaign is. And I speak of Kickstarter, but from my understanding, this is a knowledgeable crowd. You know that more or less the same applies to any crowdfunding platform. So the main aspects of a campaign are the video, the text, the rewards, and then an outreach scheme. How you engage, how you communicate your campaign. I can give you a few tips. Just I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you've been at it for longer than I have. But just to give you a couple of tips, let me start from the video. The video is essentially the facade to your campaign. It's kind of the first thing anyone sees when they enter it. So, and very often, unfortunately, statistics have said that more people see the video than actually read the text. We live in a very short attention span culture, so people need something fast, which is why we suggest that a video for a campaign is less than 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes or less. And again, through statistics and research, we know that most people only watch the first 20 seconds or 30 seconds of a video. So very often we ask the creator within those first 20 or 30 seconds to be able to express their ask. So this is what I'm doing the campaign for. I need your support. I need your backing. I want you to be part of the production of this element of this exhibition for that amount of money. So be very direct and kind of express it very early on. And in the video, very useful is using the actual text. Don't be afraid to repeat phrases or even sentences from the text, because very often people that see the video don't even go through the text. So go ahead and kind of highlight the phrases in your text that are very to the point, that are getting the message across. We do also suggest that creators kind of appear in the video. I know not everyone is very comfortable showing up on camera, but it does create a bit of a direct connection to the viewer and makes the project more kind of, I mean, you understand that there's a person behind it. We've had campaigns, and I'll mention a couple in a few minutes, that from large institutions that they've had several members of the board of trustees appear on Kickstarter videos, or the artistic director, or even the curator of the exhibition actually showing up on the videos and kind of, you know, just mentioning a phrase. Also, don't be afraid to use clips. Don't be afraid to use graphics. Don't be afraid to use music. Make these videos as lively as possible. As I said, anything we can do to keep the attention of someone just browsing through the platform, through various projects, is what you want to do. The text is what is kind of a more extended description of what your project is. I urge people within the text to answer kind of the main questions. What is it that you're doing? What is your project? Who you are? Who are your collaborators? Why are you the right person to be doing this project? And what you need from the backer, from the pledger. In my experience, the best piece of advice for writing a text is use your actual voice. Don't pretend to sound like someone else. Don't assume that people want to read something that sounds academic or anything to that effect. Just be as direct as possible and be very transparent. If you have a worry in your project that something may not happen as you're promising through your campaign, make it known. Be very, very specific, and don't be afraid to address potential problems. For example, if you're anticipating, hey, I'm planning on doing this exhibition within a year, but maybe there's a pandemic showing up in the world within 2 months and everything is canceled. So I have to be prepared for that. Write it down. I think I for one appreciate honesty far more than actually, you know, someone not even addressing a topic. Or if you're having issues producing your rewards and sending them over, address that. So we do have some let's say production issues. It might take longer for overseas shipping. mention it in the campaign. Explain that you're a human being, that there are potentially projects. We're working in a cultural field. There's always some kind of obstacle that we have to overcome. So, I mean, people that are backing these campaigns are aware of that. Rewards. We generally suggest around 5 to 7 rewards, just so people don't get too confused about what they choose. I should say the amount of money that is most commonly pledged is €25, but the amount of money that brings in the most money for a campaign is €100. So I suggest those two amounts come with a reward that's quite enticing, that will appeal to many people. I should say that during the lockdown and the pandemic, I mean, obviously everyone knows that there are physical objects that come with rewards in crowdfunding, like a tote bag or a poster or a cup or merchandise in general. I think most of these are not particularly environmentally friendly. I should begin with that. Second of all, they burden a campaign with additional expenses very often. For example, have you included the amount of money that you need to produce these tote bags? And have you included potentially shipping amounts that you need to ship them around Europe or the world? If you haven't, you need to do that in your entire budget for the project. You need to include expenses for the campaign. You shouldn't be paying for that from your pocket, from any other budget. This needs to be going into the campaign goal. Also, as I said, during the pandemic, people were very interested in understanding that there's a big issue in the cultural sphere, closing down everything. People were very keen on pledging for non-physical rewards. And this could be anything from kind of a digital playlist or the recommendation of a bibliography, obviously a thank you note, or even a screensaver for your computer. But it can also be an experience, which is always going down far better. It could be a Zoom invitation to a discussion amongst the creatives that are making your project, a talk between an artist and a curator, maybe even a screening, a link to a streaming link for a film that's in some way related to the project that you're doing, a documentary perhaps. So people were very keen in supporting projects and not actually getting something in the mail, but getting an experience, something from their computer. And obviously very often people have the kind of the higher tier rewards. And in most cases, those are unique objects, like an edition of a print of an artist, for example. Just going back, because I don't know how much time I have left, going back, the last stage of a campaign is the outreach. The outreach is how you make your campaign known. And again, I suggest people begin very early on, even before launch. Very often people decide to launch a campaign, kind of have a soft launch for the first couple of days, and have friends and family do their own first pledges before they announce it to the world via social media, for example. So when you announce it to the world and anyone enters the link, there's already an amount there. It doesn't start from zero. So that helps quite a bit. During your campaign from Kickstarter, as a creator, you get access to a list of where your pledges are coming from. If they're coming from a link that you sent through a newsletter, then you know about that. If it's coming from a link that you attached on your social media, a post on Facebook, an Instagram story, then you are notified through Kickstarter. So throughout the campaign, you know what you're doing to bring visibility to the campaign, which aspects are working. If you're spending too much time on kind of making a social media campaign with links and it's not working, don't waste your energy on that. Maybe start doing direct messaging. We very often have people, especially during the last week, even email their links through WhatsApp or on text messages. And this is, as I said, it creates a sense of urgency. You're explaining to someone, I only have like 5 days left. This is the link. Hope you can support. If not, maybe even spread the word to other people in your network. So think about not just the immediate network of an organization, but the network of the people in the organization's network. So kind of built out in circles who you can reach. Obviously, when we're talking about organizations, a press event usually helps, a press conference, actually announcing a Kickstarter campaign during a parallel event. So bringing more buzz to what's happening. Press coverage always is very helpful. That's not necessarily easily quantifiable unless a press article includes the link of the campaign, which is usually something that you need to negotiate if we're discussing with a specific journalist or a specific medium. But for example, I'm not convinced that press coverage, like traditional press coverage on a newspaper or a magazine, is that helpful when we're talking about a time-based online campaign. Do we have any questions? Am I speaking too fast? Go ahead, yeah.
Several questions.
I don't know if there are other questions from the participants. Go, Mattia. Sorry.
No, Zoe first.
Yes.
Go, Zoe. Don't you worry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Just
okay. So first of all, thank you so much for everything, and I'm so glad about this intervention, because while we were writing down this project, we were thinking of many elements that came out from your what you said. And especially the thing that to build a community and to do not begin from scratch, even for the outreach, and to take time. That's why in the second part of the project, we didn't said to close in a crowdfunding campaign, but to have time just to launch it.
Yeah.
So it's just everything preparation. So we are on the same line. I'm so glad about it, because we didn't know actually what we were talking about until now.
Yeah.
And that's here's my question. I completely forgot. Okay, no, because I got several. And yes, first, and I'm gonna begin with this. You said first week is revealing if it's gonna happen or not. I've done several fundraising courses in which people said, well, you can use a trick to have a small amount apart to found your first week. So you show people if there's already a step on. Do you think it can be a strategy useful, or is it just a trick? And
I mean, all of these are tricks. I'm not going to lie. I usually do it in any campaign that I'm working on with a creator, kind of advising and facilitating and giving feedback. I usually make sure I do it, especially in large campaigns, just because it's for the momentum of the campaign, that when someone enters a campaign from the very first week and they see that already people have believed in it and supported it, it kind of gives you an extra push about supporting it yourself.
So the end of this question, if you say something like this, and you say first week is revealing, and you were talking about most of the project between 10 and 12,000 euros, which is the ideal generally closing date? How much a campaign can be open? It depends a lot on the target, I know.
It does. I would say, in my experience, and again, coming and having seen it work in a country that hasn't been familiar with crowdfunding as much in the past, I would say that 30 days is absolutely necessary. More than that creates exhaustion for the creator and the people that receive the notifications even, but less than that is far too stressful.
Thank you so much. I'm going to count down and leave the word to the other. So up to you.
Well, what are the tricks? Because it still intrigues me, the fact that one reaches 90% or 99% and they cannot find the rest. What are the tricks? Okay.
As I said, it's the type of rewards you include. It's the type of language that you use. The normal
way. What are the tricks? I mean,
an important trick is the fact that you have to keep your video very short, and you have to make sure that you ask what you ask for within the first 20 seconds. And the fact that you actually appear as a creator on the video is an important trick, I would say.
For example, if there are, let's say, 100 euros missing, can I support it from my personal account?
No, you can't.
So, this is one.
I mean, I have known, and this is something that I've been told, but I haven't seen it myself. I've known of people that if they were missing like 200 euro, they asked a friend from a different bank account to deposit it, and that makes sense to me. But I know it's not. I mean, as a creator, you're not allowed to back your own campaign, and if you do, there is kind of a possibility of the entire campaign being canceled. So I wouldn't want to risk that if I were a creator, to be honest. And there are, I mean, I have a whole different section, but I don't want to, again, bother you, but I just want to mention, apart from numerous cultural organizations that I've worked with that have done campaigns, just to express how many different types of things that you can do. It's not necessarily just an exhibition. It could be a campaign for archiving a collection or digitizing a collection, or it could be for only a publication. It could only be an event. I've had done a campaign for only a performance, a one night only performance of a cultural institution. It could be even just part of the budget of what you need for a larger change or shift in a campaign. There are different ways to approach a campaign, but I've had examples here. Large institutions like the Smithsonian Institute in Washington has done a campaign and then received 720,000 euros. Well, dollars. So, and this was just to be able to restore a spacesuit of Neil Armstrong that, you know, is on display. So, I mean, there are amounts that you can reach, and especially if we're talking about more high profile institutions, there are larger amounts that you can reach. I generally have worked mostly with small or mid-scale institutions in my time in Kickstarter, and I've done campaigns for 40 or 60,000 euro. But again, I don't know what your interest is in what you're going to be doing your campaign for. So, just giving you the most successful rate, at least until now, on Greece.
Hi, Evita. It's so useful, everything, and very inspiring what you have been sharing with us. Thank you so much. I have a question. Like I'm thinking, for example, if we want to raise some funding for a publication, let's say, is there an average amount that would be more easy to reach? For example, could you propose? Yes.
Yeah, I've done publications through publication campaigns through Kickstarter. They tend to do well for the obvious reason that one of the rewards is usually the actual publication, which means that very often people actually pre-order as if they were going to a bookstore and buying it. So in my experience, publications have worked particularly well. And usually they're small amounts. And the average campaign for a publication, I've done campaigns for 5,000 to 6,000, and they have been very successful, very quick. And I've even done campaigns for even less than that, around 2,000. And again, they have been very successful because always one of the rewards is you spend maybe 30, 40 euros and you get the publication. And you also have the kind of the extra source of pride that you help the publication come to life.
Thank you. And I just have one more question. I was thinking, for example, are there any times of year or a time or a period that, you know, it's better to apply? Let's say around Christmas, around the, you know.
Not in Christmas, not during
like
Christmas. Christmas is generally not a good idea. Also, obviously, from mid-July to the end of August is not a good idea. People are not on their computers. But I mean, in most cases, I'm in contact with someone, with a creator for a campaign. Very often, I get back to my team in New York and see, is this going to be a week of many launches? If it's going to be a week of slower launches, I suggest that we go for slower launches, because then it will go further up into the preferences, this campaign that we're launching. There are other ideas that throughout the month, it's best that you launch either early in the month or about mid of the month, not by the end of the month, because most people get paid either on the 1st or on the 15th of the month. So that's when they're more likely to spend their money. Generally avoid the holidays, we would say, and generally avoid Christmas and summer. But other than that, as I said, you kind of figure out what is the best time for you, mainly having been able to do the work that you need to prepare, but also while the campaign is launching, that you have enough time to kind of it's a lot of work. Even while it's running, you have to kind of chase people and see who's interested in pledging and spreading the word. So make sure that you have enough time when you launch to be on top of it. Or depending your team, whoever is actually going to be running the campaign.
Well, are there questions from participants? Reflection, doubt?
I'm not, just a final note on Kickstarter, because I know that this is an actual workshop of building skills about fundraising, and I understand that. And I understand that I'm coming from an actual company and representing that company. I'm not saying crowdfunding is the solution to all problems, but if I know something, having worked in culture for over 15 years now, is that we need to find different ways of fundraising. We can't all base everything on one popular fundraising source, whether that be the state, whether that be private institutions. The more you diversify the sources that you have to be able to do your work, the best it is. And if anything, crowdfunding gives you more people, and I think that's worth your time.
Well, the focus of the project is much more on building a community and keep it alive. So I guess that crowdfunding for this is just that it is a fundraising tool, okay, but it focuses so much in using, and it can be so useful on this field. That
one of the campaigns that I was very happy to be working with, this was by the Liverpool Biennial. This was a few years back. They did a Kickstarter campaign for about 10,000 euro. It wasn't too big, but it was to be able to have art workshops for students, school students, run by one of the artists, Ryan Gander, who was participating in the biennial. And this was something direct, based on the community and directed towards the community. So the more you can use those types of tools, I think the more crowdfunding works for you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Evita. Thank you very much, Zoe. Your interventions both are really, really helpful and inspirational for us. If there are not other questions or doubts from participants, maybe we can go on. There are a lot of idea, I think, and suggestions that your intervention has created. So I think that we need then to reflect on this, yes, step by step. Really thanks.
And make sure my email is available to everyone. It's just evita@kickstarter.com. If anyone has a question or you want to just discuss again,
you can
to anyone.
Write it on the chat if you want, and maybe if you want, we can share your LinkedIn
profile. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
If you want, as you prefer. I think it could be really helpful for us to stay in contact.
If you are interested in Zoe intervention, we got we are live on Facebook and YouTube. You can find that.
Thank you so much for that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Maybe, Mattia, we can close the live streaming session and say hello to our followers.
goodbye to everyone, and we'll give you an appointment to next week for the last Work Café, which will be much more a workshop, and we're gonna begin to plan the second phase of MICA project. So please participate in as many as you can. Goodbye to everyone.